Today we're going to try subtracting fractions. Now it's very similar to adding fractions in that the main thing to think about is finding a common denominator. So for the question I'm about to write, 1/2 take away or subtract 1/7. The first thing we think about is our denominator. Now when we're thinking about fractions, we've got a number on top of the line and a number below. Now the top number is called the numerator, and the bottom number, that's our important one, is called the denominator. So in this case, our denominator is 2 and 7. So we have to look at those two numbers and think, what number is a multiple of both 2 and 7? So I'm going to write out my 2 times tables, and I'm also going to write out my 7 times tables. Now, at this stage, you don't need to go all the way to 2 times 12 or 7 times 12, because you need to look at both of those times tables and see what number is in both of them. And the lowest number in both of them is 14, which means that in this case, we're going to be trying to turn our denominator for both of them into 14. So I'm going to rewrite my question here with 14 as our denominator. Now we look at our denominator for 1/2, which was 2, and we think, how did we turn 2 into 14? Well, we multiplied it by 7. Now, because we're finding the equivalent of 1/2 in 14ths, we must do to the numerator exactly the same as what we did to the denominator. So we multiply the denominator by 7, so we must multiply the numerator by 7 as well. So that's 1 times 7, which makes our new fraction 7/14. Now, we can't just stop there by making the 1/2 into 14ths. We also need to make the 1/7 into 14ths. So this time, it's exactly the same method. We look at our denominator 7 and we think, what have we done to get it to 14? Well, we've multiplied it by 2. And again, whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. So we must multiply that 1 by 2 as well, which leaves us with 7/14 minus 2/14. Just like with addition of fractions, at this point, you just subtract the numerators. You don't worry about the denominators. So you keep the denominator the same. So it's the same as saying 7 take away 2 all over 14. So our answer here is 5/14. And at this point, you've got to think, can I simplify that? And we can't. So I'm going to give you another one here. I'm going to give you 4/5 subtract 1/3. Now, as usual, feel free to pause the video and have a go at this before I work through it with you. Okay, so let's begin. So step 1 is we have to think, what is our common denominator? So I'm going to write a little method on the right hand side here. So step 1, what's our common denominator? Well, how do we do that? Well, let's try writing out our 5 times tables and our 3 times tables. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Again, we don't need to go all the way up to 5 times 12. And then we'll write out our 3 times table. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And at this point, we can stop because we can notice that there's a number in both of the 5s and the 3s, which in this case is 15. So we know our denominator, which is in common, is 15. Now we go back to looking at what we do to 5 to turn it into 15. Well, you multiply that by 3. So then whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to our numerator as well. So we're multiplying the 4 by 3 as well to make 12/15. Now we do exactly the same method where we look at the 3 and see what do we multiply that by to get to 15. Well, you multiply that by 5. So then we must do the same to our numerator as well. Multiply that by 5 too. So 1 multiplied by 5 makes 5. So now we've got 12 over 15, take away 5 over 15. And just like in our first question, you just look at the numerators. So 12 subtract 5 all over 15, which is the same as saying 7 over 15. Now I haven't added to my method here, which I'll do now. So the first step was find your common denominator. Your second step was do the same to the numerator as you do to the denominator. And then the last thing we do is we subtract our numerators. Sorry about the handwriting there. And then sometimes you'll be able to simplify. In these two cases, we can't. Okay, I hope that was a useful video and good luck.